What's up guys, Bonnie here with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're trying to break a record for the fastest solo Dragon 25 with a Urogrim. We all know how broken this champion is right now. We've seen a couple different builds, but this player is allowing me to test on his account with a unique build. At least I haven't seen this so far. He was able to optimize this, and I'll go over the details. We in fact have two different mastery setups to try out. One that's a little bit safer, the other one that's a little bit more aggressive. So maybe somehow we can set a record. So let's get going. So let me first start with a quick review of his skills in case you guys do not know about this new champion. Triple hit A1 with a chance of placing a poison debuff on each hit. This is a relatively low chance, so obviously there's some RNG involved because of that. Then for the A2, you cleanse and you heal, and apparently he's smart enough to prioritize this when he's low health, which is great. And finally for the A3, AoE poison, 3 of them on all enemies, and then 2 15% continuous heals on all allies or himself in this case. So overall, he has everything he needs to be able to heal himself, right? Therefore, a regeneration set might not be needed. In fact, it is not needed. This player went with a frenzy set because it should allow us to cycle faster to the poison debuffs and fill up the debuff bar of the enemies a little bit faster. One other thing to point out is that even though you have a high resistance, you can still get locked down by the Oathbound on the enemy team, and I'll explain that when we go over the run. So even if you were to push this higher, don't forget there's a 3% chance that you can still get CC'd, and this might still cause a wipe. So the goal here was to hopefully use the cleansing accessories, 3 of them eventually, to kind of prevent this from happening or to give you another chance of coming out of this. So now let's go over the first set of masteries and a run, and then we'll come back to the second set of masteries, the more aggressive one, to see if we can beat that record. So here are a few things to point out about the first set of masteries, the safer ones. We have Arcane Celerity. I think that's a no-brainer. You have so many debuffs, you want to be able to take advantage of that. Cycle of Magic, you want to be able to cycle through the A2 and A3 a lot faster. Then we have Lasting Gifts. You want your continuous heals to last as long as possible. Add to that Spirit Haste so that you have a little bit more speed as your food is dying. And then we have Oppressor here for even more turn meter for every debuff there is, up to 10%. And then the important one here on the defense tree is probably Resurgent to kind of help you remove that occasional block cooldown skills from the Oathbound on the enemy team if ever that were to happen. And so this can potentially save your ass when that happens. And then for the rest here, Retribution obviously is pretty good to have, especially if you take a lot of damage, so you might be able to counter attack into some extra poisons. All right, so now let's go over a run. All right, here we go. So what exactly happens in the beginning? Basically, we start loading up on the poison debuffs. We have our champions taking a turn, which is somewhat of a problem. If you can find champions that have a slower animation, or sorry, faster animation, or perhaps that are even slower so that they don't even take a turn, for example, before the enemy champions do, then this could be even faster. But let's assume that you're going to do random food all the time, so this is a better example of what it might actually look like for you guys. Also, something else to point out with the frenzy set, what's great about this is that every time the entire enemy team is about to take a turn themselves, they're all going to take a turn, so you need to be able to survive those 5 hits with that regeneration set. However, with the frenzy set, you're able to cut in. So let's say you take 2 hits or 3 hits, then you take a turn, you heal yourself, so you can kind of afford to be a little bit squishier in a sense, because you know you'll be able to get that extra turn, cut in, get those continuous heals, or use that A2 to heal yourself. Also, if let's say we were able to optimize the speed even further to a point where I think taking too many turns might become a problem. You're just adding animations, and the poison bar or the debuffs bar on the enemies, it's gonna be full anyway, right? So at this point, we know these champions are about to die from all those poison debuffs, so you kind of don't want to place more poisons, right? So I would assume there is such a thing as going too fast, you know what I mean? Like, you want to get to a point where you quickly fill up the bar, and then you kind of, I guess, don't want to take too many turns after that. So hey, maybe there is a sweet spot for the speed is what I'm trying to say. But as you saw in the beginning with the speed that we have right now, which is roughly 242 plus all those extra masteries, maybe we don't need Oppressor, you know what I mean? Maybe we don't need Arcane Celerity, although I think that one is pretty good. But anyway, let's move on to the second set of masteries, the more aggressive one, to see if we can beat this run right here of 1 minute and 46 seconds. And here's a few more things to point out. If you want to make this even faster, in fact, I'm pretty sure somebody's going to beat this within the next couple of days or weeks, right? You want to have champions on your team that are slower. I said that before. You can use an uncommon like Saurus. You put 4 Saurus in here. They're so slow that the enemy teams, the enemy champions are going to kill that champion before they even get to take a turn. Secondly, even if you do get crowd control like that right there, you can come out of this assuming you are fast enough. On the second wave, there's also a decreased speed, which might happen. You can somewhat come out of that as well, assuming you have enough speed. So again, there's a sweet spot for that. There's also a sweet spot for survivability. Once you reach that point, you can effectively lock out his A2. You do not need this champion to take that A2 because you can count on the frenzy set and the continuous heals to heal you, assuming of course you don't get CC'd. So if we take all of that into consideration, I would drop the cleansing accessories. I would just go for refresh accessories. The AoE poison is going to be more important to speed up your run so that you can, instead of just relying on the A1 and then the occasional A3, you would have the A3 up more often, and then you're going to get that occasional run, which is going to be really fast. Thirdly, the offensive masteries, right? So obviously now we're going for Giant Slayer. We're trying to deal a little bit more damage. So on top of that, you would want to boost up his offensive stats. You want that A1 to hit as hard as possible, and then this would be even faster because you might be able to kill some of those champions in the waves without just the poisons, right? So if somehow somebody has the perfect gear for this, it is going to be under this run right here, but also an even faster run that I was not able to reproduce so far, but I'll show you guys a screenshot in a second. So we have 1 minute and 38 seconds so far. To do that, we use these masteries right here. So as you can imagine, we went into the offensive tree instead of defense and support. We have kind of the same thing here for support. We dropped the presser to go and get our Giant Slayer. Okay, so obviously we're trying to deal more damage to the dragon, but like I said, here's what I would do to try and increase our offensive stats even further. I would get the crit rate. I think I would go for Keen Strike, maybe even Heart of Glory, because I don't think you spend a whole lot of time being under 50% HP. You tend to heal so much from continuous heals. I don't really think you need Life Drinker either, but I suppose maybe getting this here might help a little bit more. I would try and get Whirlwind to Death. I would go for Wrath of the Slain. I would probably go for Kill Streak because you're trying to go to Giant Slayer, although Methodical would be useful as well. But overall, kind of like optimize this a little bit further, keep the support tree, and that is how you're going to get a record with Urogrim. I would also, like I said, go for the refresh accessories. I think that cycling faster to his A3 is even more important, and I would lock out his A2. All right, so assuming of course you're able to have at least these defensive stats, if not more, with the speed, and then boost up the offensive stats even further, that is how we're going to beat a record. And the actual record that he got was 1 minute and 30 seconds. Okay, so I think that's absolutely amazing. 1 minute and 30 seconds so far with Urogrim. So we'll call this the 90-second build. Again, the challenge is out there, guys. Go ahead and beat this with perfect gear. I'm really eager to see what you guys can come up with. So thank you to Courtney here for letting me showcase off of this player's account. Hopefully you've learned a little something. Make sure you hit the follow button and the like button, and I'll catch you guys later.